Good morning, everyone. We're going to wait just a few more minutes. We still have people joining us in the waiting room. Welcome to our NAWIC webinar today, Many Paths, One Mission. We will start in just a few more minutes. Good morning. I'm Jerry Harris, Area Director of Economic Inclusion for the Gilbane Building Company here in Chicago, and the NAWIC D&I Committee Chair. We are so glad that you were able to join us this morning for our conversation with Ms. Tammy Davis with the Obama Presidential Foundation. And we are thrilled that we're going to have a conversation with her today. So let me tell you a little bit about the background of this fabulous woman. Tammy Davis is a third generation legacy of the civil rights movement, and we'll hear more about that. She was born into the work of justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and has continued the work in her own rights for over 20 years. With the experience of working in the public and private and nonprofit industry sectors, Tammy brings a panoramic perspective to the depth and breadth of her expertise in developing policies, programs, and initiatives that engage underrepresented and underserved communities in contracting and employment opportunities. Tammy is the Director of Business Diversity and Workforce Development for the Obama Foundation in Chicago, and leads construction-related diversity efforts in building the Obama Presidential Center. She supports other business teams to ensure that the mission of the foundation is met and manages the project's strategic DE&I partners to ensure that the diversity goals are met. She has created best-in-class diversity and inclusion programs that have led to the increased engagement of local, minority, and women residents and business in both the projects and organization's supply chain. Tammy holds a master's degree in public affairs from Indiana University and a bachelor's degree in English from Jackson State University. She is an ordained deacon in the Christ Baptist Church and serves as the Central Region Social Action Community Chair for Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority, Inc. Welcome, Ms. Tammy Davis.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, David.
Indeed. I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled.
Yes,
yes. I'm gonna start us out with just a little bit of conversation with asking you to share with us briefly, how are you a third generation of the civil rights movement?
Yeah, thank you. I know I don't look it. I know I don't look like I could be third generation. Those good genes, good genes, good genes. But yeah, that's a really good question. And I have to pay homage to my family ancestors because they really brought me to where I am today. And so my journey all started with my grandfather, the late Reverend K.T. Robinson. Our family is from Winona and Carrollton, Mississippi. And my grandfather and his brothers came up to East Chicago, Indiana, decades and decades ago. And my grandfather, along with several other business, faith, and community leaders, they founded the Fair Share organization in the mid to late 50s. And that Fair Share organization was responsible for pickets and boycotts and even legal action against a number of companies that refused to hire Blacks in our area. Some of those companies included the Kroger grocery store and Nagdemans, which was a clothing store in our community. And so he was the impetus, at least within our family line, of ensuring that justice and equality was achieved for all in our community. And then my mother got into the business, as you know, my mom, Barbara Holder, and she was the corporate affirmative action officer for Gilbane many, many years ago in the early 80s, Gilbane out of Rhode Island. And she would have to travel from Rhode Island to Chicago. And she was working on the Delta Airlines terminal at O'Hare. And she worked on a number of other projects in Chicago, like Rush University Medical Center. And she worked on a number of large projects in Chicago. So I'm going to give homage to my mom as well. She worked on the Lucas Oil Stadium, the Eskenazi Hospital, the JW Marriott, and the MGM National Harbor Casino. And now she is managing the diversity for the Indianapolis Convention Hotel. So I come from that heritage, that history of being an advocate, not a numbers pusher, but an advocate at the table to ensure that there is diversity. And I am that next generation of leadership to continue that family lineage.
Well, thank you for that. It is a fact. I have worked and served in the Chicagoland area, which is my home, with your mother on many projects. Did not know now that in my returning to Chicago that we share another something in common, having served with Gilbane. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. And you know what's so funny, if we're going to make this conversational
Uh-huh.
here, because you and I can do that. It's, you know, when I was working in Indiana, so prior to coming to the foundation, I worked in municipal government for 11 years.
Mhm.
But when I was working in Chicago for 10 years, I was working on the Rush University Medical Center transformation project. And it was their second largest capital improvement project that they've had in their existence. And when I got to Rush, I met an individual by the name of Hatts Adams on the west side of Chicago, infamous community advocate. And Hatts reminded me that he worked with my mother in the 80s, you know, and so now working with you indirectly even, you know, it's just amazing how things come full circle.
Absolutely.
And no relationships ever go, you know, unfertilized because of the history that we have. So I'm just glad that that we're able to connect, and that generational legacy of being advocates extends to our external friends and partners too, like yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely, in full circle indeed. Thank you for that. So I know the burning question in many minds, including mine when we first connected, was please share with us, have you met and interacted with President Obama and Mrs. Obama?
Well, I have had opportunities to somewhat interact with President Obama. I am very fortunate that I work with an organization that is so intentional and committed to ensuring that there's parity and equity in building the Obama Presidential Center. And as such, President Obama has made a number of visits to the actual construction site. He is very involved in the design of it, as well as Mrs. Obama. And so in one of President Obama's visits to the construction site, I was there, and it was just really nice to be so up and close and personal to him, and to feel his energy as he encourages the workers, to continue to building this center that is really for them. It's for their children and their children, that they'll be able to go back to their respective communities and say that, hey, I've built this. I helped build the Obama Presidential Center. So that's been my only interaction with him so far. I'm still waiting to meet Mrs. Obama, and I'm not sure if I'm going to have stage fright, pass out, faint. I'm not sure when I get into her presence, but it's great to have them so involved in the project.
It is awesome. And I know that the Obamas have a residence here on the south side of Chicago, which is where I am born and raised, here on the south side of Chicago. And I have actually returning to Chicago. I'm thrilled to live in walking distance to their residence here on the south side, and literally walking distance to now this historical site of the Obama Presidential Center that will serve to commemorate Barack Obama as the 44th president of the United States. And I am so looking forward to the opening. And I know you're going to share some more images and details with us about the project in a few minutes, but if I may just indulge you with a few more questions. So what would you say is your greatest anticipation about the completion of the project?
Sure. I think the greatest thing that I anticipate about the completion of the project is, first and foremost, that we are going to make good on our commitment to be an economic catalyst on the south side of Chicago. This project is being built by the residents of the community on the south and west sides. It is being built by women. It is being built by veterans. So we are truly going to make good on that commitment. Secondly, the center is going to preserve the legacy of President and Mrs. Obama, and it will include signature programs to ensure that we are developing the next generation of leaders. Our mission at the Obama Foundation is to inspire, empower, and connect people to change their world. And we begin that change starts right at home. So we're bringing that hope home to the south side of Chicago, directly in Jackson Park, so that residents like yourself and even some of the expatriates, we want to bring them back home, and recognizing that that there has been economic investment into the south side of Chicago. And so when it's all said and done, we want to be able to say and point to the number of diverse representatives that help build it, and that we can speak to our programs where they will be housed in the foundation at the Presidential Center, where we talk about My Brother's Keepers Alliance, the things that we're doing to assist and support African-American youth, how we are addressing food desert issues through our local lunchbox programs and bringing healthy options and healthy food to our residents in the community. So the impact will be lasting. Now, while we are also preserving, the legacy of President and Mrs. Obama, we're creating new legacies in the community once it is built, because it will spur other individuals as we partner with organizations such as the Woodlawn Chamber of Commerce, the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, and Emerald South. We're empowering them to individually also support the development on the south side of Chicago.
And the energy around the project site is high and it is amazing. And I know that many are just as excited as I am to see this development come to fruition. So your journey and your career, which we did not really do any justice to speaking on, has taken you on many paths. And today we're talking about many paths in one mission. So share with us, please, a little bit about your path that brought you to being in this role.
Sure, I definitely took many paths. But I still think that I'm still going towards that destination, whatever that destination is. Only the one above, who I call God, knows what that destination point. So I'm still on my journey. I'm still on my journey. But like you mentioned in my bio, I've actually had close to 25 years of working in this industry of leading, developing, and reporting on federal, state, and municipal diversity programs. And I've had experience in working directly with the Chicago Building Trades Union, which is critical for working on projects here in Chicago. I have been able to develop a relationship with colleagues in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. And so I didn't just stay focused on a, kind of horizontal participation in this career. I really sought out how to be the best in whatever role I had. And so when I first started out, well, first, I was always helping my mom out on the Saturdays, going to these community meetings. So whether it was Black Contractors United, going to those meetings, whatever it was, I was like her tag along. So I had a very early introduction to some of our community-based organizations like Rainbow Push and others, that were real strong advocates in the industry.
Mhm.
But I sought to see what else did I need to do to support my work. I made sure that I had communication and good working relationships with our elected officials, so that I could be seen and was seen as a subject matter expert in this area. So as policies and ordinances and regulations were either being created or implemented, I had a seat at the table because it wasn't just about numbers. It was about really understanding the premise upon which our work begins and how it is integrated into a lot of the economic development initiatives and programs across the board. And so that is so critically important. So I immersed myself in reading federal legislation, talking with representatives of the U.S. Department of Labor saying, hey, help me understand Executive Order 11246. I actually met with many of the compliance officers down at their district office in Chicago. I immersed myself in making contact with compliance officers across industries, across sister agencies, to not just develop that line of communication, but to really have an understanding of how they, as regulatory agencies, saw those particular regulations being enforced. But outside of that, I did a lot of volunteer work. I was in the community. I was the president of our local branch NAACP for 4 years. And at that time, I was the youngest person elected, at least for our local branch in that position. But it wasn't because I just jumped up one day and ran for president. I volunteered at almost every community level. I worked on our labor committee with our local NAACP chapter, and essentially was able to garner some relationships at the state, regional, and national level with the NAACP. So I did a lot of volunteering. And also that gave me an opportunity to have direct working relationships with a lot of our partners and stakeholders that served me very well when coming to this role here at the Obama Foundation. So a couple friends of mine called and said the Obama Foundation was looking for someone in this role. And I felt that I was prepared for the opportunity, because you always have to stay ready. You don't get ready when the opportunity comes before you. You have to stay getting ready, right? Not just for the next opportunity, but you want to be the best at what you are in the opportunity that you have right now. And so I applied and went through a series of interviews and a number of steps to get to this particular role. But going back to your mission, many paths, one mission, it wasn't a direct line, because when I went to college at Jackson State, I majored in English to go to law school. And quite honestly, I was very inspired by Thurgood Marshall and hearing the stories of my mom and my grandfather and the struggles that they fought against and the struggles that they had to go through to be advocates and voices for us. Initially, it was not something that I wanted to do because it was hard for women being affirmative action officers in the late 70s and early 80s. They were not the most well received on construction sites. Let's be honest about that. So, as a young African-American woman going into college and figuring out what she wanted to do in her life, I didn't think I wanted to do this. I was like, let me go to law school because it seems as though we're fighting against policies that we didn't have a voice in, we didn't create. So I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be a lawyer. I'm gonna, fight it on a different end. But as fate and divine order would have it, I'm here today and I'm very blessed for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for that, Tammy. And I know that I truly stand on the shoulders of your mom and other of our ancestors and predecessors that have served this country and this nation to make sure that the underserved and specifically Black and Brown people have access to opportunities on projects such as this and other major projects here in the city of Chicago, which is how our paths are very similar. So thank you for that. Do you want to get into your presentation now?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that. Then we'll come back and have some questions from our attendees and a little bit more conversation.
All right, fantastic. So you will also see this same rendering in my backdrop here. And so this is what we envision the Obama Presidential Center going to look like when it is complete. And it's estimated to be complete right now in the fall of 2025. And so we are a little bit over 30% complete in construction. And we're just really excited about a lot of the development that is going on and the improvements that is going on already on the South Side, particularly in Jackson Park. And you can go to the next slide, Josh. And so back in 2016, the Obama Foundation garnered leaders from the community, from the business community, to really get their input and leadership in setting our diversity focused policies and goals for the Obama Presidential Center. And so this group of leaders that represented all across different demographics as well as areas of expertise, they helped us set these particular goals for the project. And so as you can see here, they're very lofty, very aggressive. And we set our business diversity goals to ensure that 50% of our total construction spend would be spent with diverse businesses. And let me also add with certified diverse businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And currently we are at over 54% of our committed contracts going to certified diverse businesses. And to ensure that we were spreading the wealth across the various demographic certifications, we set the goal of 35% for minority-owned businesses, 10% for women-owned businesses, and then we set a combined goal for 5% to ensure that veteran-owned businesses, businesses owned by people with disabilities, and LGBTQ-owned businesses were also provided. We do not double count. So we ensure that each business is individually accounted for. And because, again, we want to make sure that we are making good on our economic commitments to the community at large on the south side of Chicago, as well as all of Chicago, we set a goal to also have 7% of our construction spend with local businesses. And so by local, we mean roughly about 12 communities that are adjacent to the Presidential Center project. So if some of you are from Chicago, you may be familiar with Avalon, Chatham, Douglas, Grand Boulevard, Greater Grand Crossing, South Shore, Washington Park, Inglewood. So these are the areas where we really want to make sure that we are engaging local businesses. And so we also set onto our website a landing link that you have here where individuals can engage. And for our business diversity to reach that incredible mark of 54% in committed contracts to date, we have been very intentional. We have engaged organizations to assist us in reaching out to their members like NAWIC and others, Federation of Women Contractors, NABWIC, and other partners that I'm sure, Jerry, you and others here represented participate in, Hire 360, which I'll talk about in the next slide. But we really had to be intentional and reach out to everyone, from the Chinatown Chamber of Commerce to our more local chambers of commerce, where we have been able to have representation all across the board, and very pleased that we have Tier 1 participation. Huge focus on making sure that we have individuals, and several are women-owned contractors that have been able to participate at the Tier 1 level in our work. Next slide, please. And so naturally, in addition to having business diversity goals, we want to ensure, again, that the Obama Presidential Center is built also by the residents that are reflective of the community in which it will reside. And so we set additional workforce diversity and development goals to ensure that the quality of life of our residents, their ability to increase their earned income was being supported and included in building of the center. And so many of you may be familiar with Chicago's kind of standard 50% of the construction workforce hours being performed by Chicago residents. But we took that a step further, again, to ensure that we were having a very localized economic impact to the community residents. So we set 35% goal for construction workforce hours to be performed by residents residing on the south and west sides of Chicago. And then again, to ensure that we are having that very localized focused of impact, we set a 10% goal towards that. And we also put on our website where individuals who are interested in participating in these workforce opportunities can engage with our workforce development partners. Next slide, please. And so in recognizing that it takes a village to build any new construction edifice, we knew that we had to have some workforce development partners. We have a project labor agreement, so we partner very well with our construction trade union locals And we also wanted to ensure that we were engaging our community partners as well. So we brought together 4 of the leading pre-apprenticeship programs in Chicago, and that is with the Chicago Women in Trades, Revolution Workshop, St. Paul Community Development Ministries, and Hire 360. And so we have 2 of our construction trade union locals that are also supportive of our workforce development initiative. That is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 134, and Mid-America Carpenters. And so together, they represent what we call the We Can Build It Consortium. And that name was chosen because we really wanted to insert into the mindset of people in the community that they can build it. Because too often, our story, our mantra, our conversation is, oh, we can't do that. We can't build it. They tell us that we're not welcome. And we wanted people to know that, yes, you can. Si se puede. Yes, you can build it. We can build it together. And so by working with these 4 leading workforce development initiative, we have been able to assess over 6,000 residents that have expressed an interest into going into the construction trades. We have been able to successfully place close to 300 individuals in construction trades or construction related careers as a result of our work. And so again, it takes really going outside the norm, going outside of the status quo of thinking, what can we do next, right? It's the question of what has been done before, so that we're not always reinventing the wheel, but we recognize that if we're gonna really be a catalyst, we're gonna have to break some new ground in some old territory. And that is what we have been able to successfully achieve as a result of our initiative. And we have also been able to successfully get more women going into the trades. Just most recently, as of a couple of weeks ago, we have been able to get a young woman from the community sponsored into Local 11 Roofers. So that is huge. We have women working all across the trades on our project. We have women working as ironworkers, carpenters, laborers, plumbers, electricians, and as I just recently mentioned, as a roofer. So of course, there is a network of support, even on the project, where we encourage the women on site to work with each other, to nurture each other, mentor one another on site, because it takes that kind of support to ensure the successes as women matriculate in the various different career paths in construction. So I definitely want to make sure that I open up enough time for questions and answers. But one of the things that I really want to emphasize is the many paths that we are taking to ensure our mission to increase the presence of women and minorities going into the construction trades. And so by us being very intentional of engaging diverse participation at the tier 1 level, not just at the subcontractor level, but at all tiers, ensuring that we have equal representation, we know that that funnels down to the workforce. So if we hire women-owned contractors, diverse firms have a tendency to hire those that represent themselves. And so we have been very intentional to ensure that we are bringing that hope to action by engaging individuals that are very representative of the community in which the center is being built. And it takes the partnerships for that. And it also takes a focus not only for trade opportunities, but also in professional services. And it is also reflective of our own workforce. I report to Lori Healy, who is a very well-respected woman in Chicago, not just in construction or in economic development. The Obama Foundation is led by Valerie Jarrett. So we are a woman-led nonprofit, and we have several women that are leading the project. We have representation as architects. We have representation as engineers. And I want to give a shout out to one of my sisters, Brichet, who works for Lakeside Alliance, who is our construction management firm. She's an up and coming, just a rock star of an engineer. And there are a number of women all throughout the foundation as well as our project. So we can see that you don't necessarily have to have hard hats and steel toe shoes on, that there are a number of executive positions that you could be in. You can be a seller of goods. You can be a caterer, because we have a number of events where we bring in diverse representation. And I also want to give highlight to a new groundbreaking initiative that we have recently launched, and it's our diverse food truck initiative. And we know every construction project is going to have a food truck. We may not always call them a food truck, but we know basically what that means. And so we are focusing on food trucks that are local, diverse, women, minority, veteran, LGBTQ owned food trucks to help provide food to the crews. So again, we're very intentional about bringing our hope to reality in spreading opportunities all across the spectrum for engagement. Dre, I think that go to the next slide. And so for individuals that are looking to connect and learn more about the Obama Presidential Center, updates, you can go on to obama.org/the center to learn more about some of the things that we are doing, including job opportunities that you may want to share, and vendor opportunities, because again, we are looking for professional service providers as well. Next slide. And you can also get in touch with me, and there is my email address for you.
Thank
you. Turn it over to any questions, Jerry.
Yes, thank you, Tammy. Dre, can you go back to the first opening slide with the image of the center, please? And while he's navigating back to that, thank you, Dre. Let's just sit here for a minute. Excellent, excellent, so exciting. Very high participation requirements. And I know that in our previous conversations, you've talked about the transformational commitment that you expect for all of the companies and the businesses involved on the project to commit to. And it's obvious that that is happening with people being sponsored into opportunities within the trades, which is exactly what is needed to help make sure that all of the individuals that are seeking a high quality of life, that are going through these peer apprenticeship programs with CWIT and RW, get access to this project and others. You are feeding the pipeline for other major projects that will be occurring here in the city of Chicago, such as the ones that I'm involved in for the casino. So thank you for that. And speak a little bit, if you would please, about the unique structure of the construction team.
Sure. So our construction management team is called Lakeside Alliance. And it is a unique joint venture between 5 of the largest African-American owned general contractors in Chicago, in partnership with Turner Construction. Those 5 African-American general contractors consist of Powers and Sons Construction Company, Ujamaa Construction, Brown and Moment Construction, and Safeway Construction. And so together they formed their own LLC joint venture called the Presidential Partners. And so they have majority of the joint venture with Turner. And so you have 4 African-American businesses that got together, and then they in turn selected the right partner for them. And it proves, number one, that we can work together. So we can throw out that myth that we cannot work together, because the Presidential Partners has definitely proven that. And they have proven to also be the right partners for us, because we are able to be so transformative because they get it. It is not a hard sell. We roll with them. We don't have to pull them to achieve and participate in some of these wonderful ideas that we come up with. Say, oh, let's have a diverse food truck initiative. Oh, and oh, by the way, let's try this. They roll right with it. And it's great having them as a partner, because they enforce with every contractor what we call transformative commitments. We recognize that contractors are going to say, yes, we'll meet your goals. You know, they check the box and say, yeah, you want 50%? Yeah, I'll give you 50%. You want 10% women-owned businesses? Yeah, we'll give you that. But we wanted to go way beyond those numerical commitments. So in nearly all of our contracts, our tier ones, our primes, commit to transformative commitments, meaning, are you going to sponsor one or more individuals in the trades that either you as a prime or your subs will be self-performing into that respective local? 2, you can participate in some internship programs, support some community outreach. And we have one particular prime that's not located in Chicago, but they went so far as to provide transportation for individuals from Chicago to go to where their office is located and bring them back. They also hired an individual from Chicago, put up temporary housing for this individual and his family. And now that has completely changed that individual's life. That's what we call transformative. And that's how we approach every single trade contract. And it's because of great partners like Lakeside Alliance.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I'm so glad that you are able to encourage that and speak on it and set examples that I certainly will be looking to walk in your shoes on, okay? So we do have one question in the chat, and I'd ask that those who are joining us, again, thank you for being here. If you are interested in posing a question, please put it use the Q&A function in the application here so that we can then pose our questions. One question we have, Tammy, is will you share the presentation with the participants?
Sure, we could definitely do that.
Thank you. And this session is being recorded to share for the NAWIC website. Then we have another question. Will there be opportunities for individuals who work on the OPC, the Obama Presidential Center, to also have opportunities on projects like the Bally's Chicago Casino? If so, how does that happen? So we can certainly, I will share my information with you. And as I've just said, all of the groundwork and the pre-work and the preparation, especially the pipeline work that is happening on this project with the pre-apprenticeship programs and the unions will certainly benefit the Chicago Bally's Casino project that is forthcoming, that I and the Chicago Community Builders Collective are working on. So I will share my information in the chat so you can reach out to me separately about that.
Yeah, one of the great things about working with the workforce development partners that we have engaged with We Can Build It is that they are working on a number of large scale projects throughout Chicago. And as I mentioned earlier, our We Can Build It partners have been able to successfully place individuals that have been interested in working on the Obama Presidential Center on other projects. So one thing that we do recognize is that there is an ebb and flow to the work, right? And so trades will come and go on various projects. And for example, if we have an individual, and this is actually a live example, where we have had community residents, that are interested in going into the trades. And one of our center contractors has not started work yet. However, they are working on another project in Chicago. So while this particular contractor is awaiting their work to start on our project, they are utilizing some of these individuals through our workforce initiative on other projects. And so that is just our way of ensuring that we don't lose them in the process, in the waiting period. And so those are one of the things that we encourage our contractors to do. Don't wait until you start on our project. There's opportunities right now for you to sponsor some individuals into the union or hire them on if they are an apprentice or a journey person already, and work them on other projects. And so I'm sure that as your project, Jerry, really gets rolling, that our partners, just as a result of their relationships in the community, will be a partner and a resource to you as well.
Absolutely. And one of the things, as we've said before, how relationships are important, just as the relationship that I've had with your mother, the relationship that I have with you. These relationships would allow us to keep strengthening and offering opportunities within the city of Chicago, because we support each other, we talk to each other, and we work with each other to ensure that these things are happening. So rest assured that we are working on your behalf, those who are business owners within the Chicagoland area, to help open the doors to access to opportunities on this project and others that are coming. We have another question for you, Tammy. It says, thank you, Ms. Sutton, for the question. Thank you, Tammy, for your service. How does Obama Foundation help build cross-cultural development among diverse stakeholders and partners?
Cross-cultural development. Now, is this specific to construction, or can you elaborate, put that in the chat a little bit more?
So Ms. Sutton, if you heard her response, if you could expound on your question a little bit more, we'd be happy to answer that.
And while she's doing that, just as I'm thinking about the question in general about the cross-cultural collaboration, because culture can mean different things. And so through our leadership development programs, like Obama Leaders Africa, Obama Leaders Asia, we have been very focused on really developing that next generation of leaders who are empowered and resourced to help change the communities where they are. And so through some of our signature programs, we are looking to focus on where there are some of the greatest needs for civically engaged, civically minded leaders. And through these programs, there is a focus on a curriculum that allows these next generation of leaders to really kind of fine tune their advocacy, and then providing them with access and exposure to leaders in their particular areas of passion, to really help resource and source them to take their passion to the next level. So I would answer that with taking a look at some of our Obama Leaders programs, where you can find a lot of that cross-cultural connectivity. And most recently, I believe it was when President Obama was in Germany, I think it was the first time where we brought all of our different leaders together. So the Obama leaders, Asia, the Obama leaders in Africa, the Obama leaders in the UK, they all came together to experience and to learn some of the initiatives, programs. As iron sharpens iron, it was that kind of approach in the room where they were able to gather together, learn from each other, and share all of these successes and resources. So through our programming, I can say that is probably the most transformative way in which we are supporting cross-cultural development under the Obama Presidential Center.
Wonderful. Another question from Ms. Hidalgo. Tammy, can you share how you keep the residents and local communities engaged with the project? And are there any community events to keep the local residents engaged until the project is complete?
Absolutely. So for the community residents we approach it, I'll highlight just two ways in which that is done. One, as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of community outreach. So we go to high schools, we attend community meetings, we engage our faith leaders to make them aware of apprenticeship opportunities, employment opportunities, not just in the trades, but as I mentioned, in non-trade positions with our contractors. We also have a newsletter that individuals can sign up for. And one of our staff members, Condola King, if you are able to put that in the chat, that would be great, on how people can sign up for our newsletter to stay engaged. And so that's a way where we like to keep the community informed of what's happening in the community and for our different programs that we have. And actually on site, we have a number of events where we help build a sense of community actually on the site. We have a huge, what we call the huddle tent, which I understand is about the size of a football field or a football field and a half. But we also have, we often have sponsored lunches for the construction work crews to all kind of come together. And we just have a good old fellowship, good old barbecue, where we can all, come together. And sometimes we provide information sessions about financing. We provide healthcare, safety information, just to make sure that we are empowering not just them as workers, but also them as individuals.
Well, that's wonderful. I know I personally, the site was open to the community. And I think there was just come visit the site, tour, and see how the progress that was being made, where you also just open it up. So that was very unique as well, from my perspective, and wonderfully done.
Yeah, we do a number of tours. They're not all like just open to the public, but we do have a number of tours, and there will be job opportunities, of course, post-construction. And so people can go onto obama.org, onto our career opportunities link on our webpage to find out about jobs that will be hired right now, but that will continue on through post-construction.
Beautiful. Kudos to the Obama Foundation for bringing so many minority architects, engineers, and contractors into this project. You have set the bar incredibly high. Agreed. Thank you for that comment, and I totally agree. I had the pleasure of working with INOMA earlier on in my career here in the city of Chicago, and I know Dina Griffin is one of the architects that is involved in the interior design on the project. Yes, and I know from the link that you shared earlier, there are a lot of YouTube videos that give more insight to the design of the building, which I asked to be put back up there because I watched one of them, and it was just said that there was to be representing of many hands coming together and holding up and just being embracing. So can you speak to that a little bit about the image and the shape of the building?
Sure. So if you look at, and it's hard to tell unless you actually have four hands together, coming together to really shape it. But President and Mrs. Obama wanted to make sure that the design of the building was as reflective of their community, of their commitment to inspiration, as in the building of it and within the building. And so to your point, Jerry, the structure on the outside, and you also have to like cut off the fingers to really, because you can't see, like there's like a, not a pinnacle part,
Mhm,
but it's the coming together of four hands. And if you could see where my knuckles kind of bend,
mhm, mhm.
you might be able to see where some of the architecture bends there, right? And so it reflects the coming together of the community, where four hands are joined, where all of our hands are joined, that we really can inspire and be the change that we really want to see.
Beautiful, thank
And
you.
the design of the architects is also a minority-led firm with TWBTA, Todd Williams and Billy Chin.
Wonderful, thank you for that. How do the partners prepare themselves to welcome diverse workers?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How do the partners prepare themselves to welcome diverse workers?
So I'm assuming that's the construction teams. Well, that begins during the pre-bid phase. So we had a number of pre-bid meetings where it was emphasized that we wanted every contractor to be committed to our numerical goals, but we also wanted them to be committed to the mission of what being diverse really represents. And so throughout all phases of bidding, we emphasize the importance of diversity. And then on site, we have a number of info sessions. So for example, this year for Women's History Month, we partner with Chicago Women in Trades for what we were told was the very first time many were aware on a construction site where there actually was a training for being an ally to women in construction. And that was led by our partners with Chicago Women in Trades. And then just this past June, we had a Juneteenth celebration that was led by one of our construction partners. And, to give the history of Juneteenth and why it was important. And it was in all construction crews were in the room or in the hub tent. So there are many different opportunities on the site where we, leverage the opportunities to inform our contractors about what diversity means, how they can be an ally, and also the allies that exist on the project to help support the diverse representatives that are there. One of our carpenter stewards is a woman, and so she's a great mentor that often has kind of like her own coffee chats with some of the women on the workforce. So throughout the project, we are looking to have even more of those info sessions so that we are really elevating people's knowledge of some of the diverse aspects of construction, and then diversity as a whole.
Tammy, I am surprised we are a minute over time, and I just want you to answer briefly two final questions. If we didn't get to your question, please forgive us. We will have share the information in the presentation. So the final two questions, if you would briefly, one is, are there still any opportunities remaining for small and diverse-owned businesses? And what is the one design feature that Mr. Obama, President Obama, wanted incorporated into the design of this building?
Wow. Okay. I'm definitely going to take the first question first.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are still sub-tier opportunities for in building the center. And we can put in the chat Lakeside Alliance's contact information. We are probably about 99% bought out at the top tier. But also recognizing that some of these contractors are not going to start until next year or later this year. So there are still some opportunities to engage with those contractors, and we can definitely put you directly in touch with Lakeside Alliance. And if Condola, Ms. King, if you could put that in the chat as well, how people can connect to Lakeside Alliance. But their website is www.lakesidealliance.com. And there is a link for you to register your interest in being a contractor. Now, in terms of President Obama's one feature within the center, I would say that throughout the center, he wants to make sure that it is user-friendly, that it is going to be welcoming, and that's every floor, whether it is the part of the center where we're calling it like the democracy forum area, where people will be invited and inspired to really get involved in democracy. And so every aspect, of course, within the center, he has had a eye on and an opinion on. But I think the most thing that he wants to see is that it is engaging and that it is inspiring.
Thank you so much. And the closing question, because it was posed a couple of times, is questions in access to technology needs for the project and beyond after opening. So is that something that can also be posed to the Lakeside Alliance email address, or what?
I would say that for businesses that are interested in some of the technological opportunities, we could connect them to our Director of Procurement, Nirali Shah, and also connect them to someone on our product and tech team, which may have some interest in various different aspects, because this center is going to be highly technical. A lot of smart technology has been included and ingrained into the construction of it. So for those who are in that space, we can definitely connect you to our Director of Procurement. And then also Dave Reynolds, who is our Vice President of Facilities and Operations. He will have some procurements under him as well that may include some technology opportunities, and we can connect them to them as well.
Well, thank you so much. We are over 5 minutes over, and I know that you and I can continue to talk for a long time, as we typically do. So again, I want to thank you for your service. Thank you for your commitment and for your family's commitment. And NAWIC thanks you for this presentation today, and we look forward to having you come back and share more with us, maybe a little bit further along when the project is a little bit further along. Can we call on you for that?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all of our participants, and be well. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.